Lakshmikant. Hope you all are fine, my dear. Here, welcome to all of you in test prep card, my dear. And now in this video, I'm going to tell you about the breathing and exchange of gases. This one is the chapter of Unit 5 of class 11. And this unit, only the human physiology is be here in Unit 5. Students, in Unit 5, you all know that the one chapter is deleted from your syllabus. That is what digestion and absorption. Yes. So this one is 16th chapter. Digestion and absorption is the 15th chapter, and this 15th chapter is deleted from your syllabus, my dear. So that's why I'm starting here the chapter, the 16th number chapter of Unit 5, breathing and exchange of gases. Okay. So let's see what we here we study in this very mind map. In this very mind map, my dear, here we study about the different way of respirations in living organisms, basically in human, that what the system is here for the respiratory system. So let we start here. Okay. So now first, the things that what we have to be start in this very chapter. Let's see first which one thing we have to be start right now. Here in a respiratory organisms, my dear, exchange of the gases, we all know that there are different organ in animals for respiration. Is that clear? In different animals, they use different types of organs for respiration. Just take one example is here, whatever the branches is given in their mind map. Here the C. First here, when I'm saying about the examples of fishes, tadpoles, prawns, these all are respire with the help of gills. Correct? Now, if I'm saying here that the examples of insects, centipede, millipede, etc., they were respiration will take place with the help of tracheal tube, right? If I'm saying here the sponges, colentrata, flatworms, these all are respiration with the help of body surfaces. Okay, so body surfaces. Now, if I'm saying here the example of terrestrial animal, we including also here like human beings, they are respiration with the help of lungs. Clear? So there are different organisms. What they have is different type of respiratory organ, and that very respiratory organ is responsible for respiration. And you all know that, my dear. Hope so that whatever the exchange of gases, whenever I'm saying the breathing and exchange of gases, here the two thing is very important. One thing that is to be understand here that how the exchange of gases will take place, what the organ is responsible for the exchange of gases. But whenever I'm saying about the term respiratory system, that is a human respiratory system, in details we have to be know here. In human respiratory system, it means that the system in which the various organ is responsible for the exchange of gases in human, basically whenever we study in this very mind map. And then after, my dear, respiratory volume and capacities, exchange of gases between alveoli and blood, yes or no? And then after, the exchange of gases between blood and tissues, how it be occurs. Then after, the transport of gases also. Is that clear? And then after, the regulation of respiration, how the regulation of respiration will take place, and which one is the chemical regulation, which one is the neural regulation. This one is important to understand here. And then after, the respiratory disorder, there are some disorder that's just like asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia, lung cancer. These all are the respiratory disorder, my dear. Okay. So let me start one by one and to understand these all things according to NCERT also. So, but first of all, here the term is very important to understand that what do you mean by human respiratory system, my dear? Okay. So first we start from where? First we start from human respiratory system. So here one thing is that is very important to understand here, that before we start the human respiratory system, here are some respiratory organs in animals which is responsible for respiration, or you say the exchange of gases. Let's see one by one, and then after we have to be start. Okay, now we move to the next slide here. See, if I'm saying here that the respiration, the term here is what? Respiration, my dear. Okay, I want to make the color different here. Let's see here the what? Breathing and exchange of gases. Here I'm saying you that respiration, the term here what respiration, hope so you know the term respiration. No, it is a what? Catabolic process. What I'm saying, it is a It is a catabolic process, my dear. It is a catabolic process. It is a catabolic process in which oxygen oxidize with glucose. What I'm saying, in which oxygen oxidize with whom? Oxidize with glucose, my dear. So oxidize with what? Glucose to provide what I'm saying, energy to the cell. To provide energy to the what, my dear? Energy to the cell. Getting my point? So here the respiration is nothing. It is a what? Catabolic process, and that very catabolic process which is responsible for the what? Oxidation of glucose. Here whenever I'm saying the oxidation of glucose, it means what? Let's see. Here I'm just writing one reactions. One is what? That is suppose C6 S12O6. This one is the formula of glucose. You all know this is the formula of what? Glucose. And whenever this glucose oxidize with the O2, then it gives what? 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O, as well as what? The energy also. Here the energy, how much amount of energy? Because in the presence of oxygen, so here 38 ATP amount of energy distributed. Okay, getting? So the respiration term is clear. Respiration is nothing. It is very simple. It is a catabolic process in which oxygen oxidizes with glucose to provide energy to the cell. Now the thing is here. Let's see in slides. Here, respiration term is clear. It means that mainly the exchange of gases will be to take place, and whatever the exchange of gases will take place here, all the animals, whatever they eat, the oxygen oxidize that very food and to provide energy to the cell. But the way of different respiration is different animals, but the main motive is to be what? To oxidize the food. And so whenever the food to be oxidized, then after it gives energy to each and every part of the cell, my dear. Okay, now the important thing is here to know that what the thing is written in NCERT also. Let's check in NCERT also here, my dear. So see in the NCERT what we see here in breathing and exchange of gases. See how the NCERT tell you about this one thing. We already have studied that the organisms indirectly break down the nutrient molecules. Yes or no? Whatever the nutrient molecules we take, they all break down by the what? See here, the organisms to the indirectly breakdown of nutrient molecules like glucose and to derive energy for performing various activities. Yes, this one is the thing, just I say here. So why we need breathing and exchange of gases? The breathing and exchange of gases is very important, my dear. You know why? Because the glucose, whatever we take the food like glucose, and is derived energy by performing various activities, their need of exchange of gases. So here the carbon dioxide CO2 gas, which is what? Very harmful, is also released during the above catabolic reaction. Whatever the catabolic reaction here, I'm telling the catabolic process. Respiration is what? Catabolic process. Getting my point? So whatever the catabolic process, they also released a harmful gases also. Yes or no? That is CO2. It is therefore evident that oxygen O2 has to be continuously provided to the cell. Oxygen has to be continuous provided to the cells, and CO2 produced by the cell have to be released out. Have to be what? Released out. So whatever the harmful gases, it must be released out from the body. Now here the process of exchange of this O2 from the atmosphere with CO2 produced by the cell is called breathing. So mainly you say what? Breathing is called exchange of gases. Breathing is what? Called exchange of gases of O2 from the atmosphere with CO2 produced by the cell. So this one is the what? Exchange of gases, and commonly known as what? Respiration. But the respiration and breathing is what? Two different thing. But commonly we say the respiration, no problem. But respiration and breathing is what? Two different thing. You know what? Breathing is anabolic process, while respiration is what? Catabolic process, my dear. Getting my point? Getting my point? Again, I'm repeating here. Breathing is what? Anabolic process, while respiration is what catabolic process. Why I'm saying this one thing, because during breathing only the formation will occurs and only the exchange of gases will take place. But whenever I'm saying about the term respiration, it means what? Respiration means that the oxygen oxidize with the glucose and to provide energy to the cell, my dear. Okay, this one is the thing that is very important to understand. Okay, now see, now, what are the respiratory organs, my dear? Here, see, here the first the respiratory organs, and that is also given in your mind map also. So here the respiratory organs, there are different organisms have different organs for the respiration. Let's check here. Here, if I'm saying that the mechanism of breathing vary among different group of animals, yes. See here the examples of some invertebrates like swans, colentrata, flatworms, etc. They exchange O2 with CO2 by simple diffusion, my dear. What I'm saying? By the simple diffusion. Simple diffusion, you know what the meaning of simple diffusion? Simple diffusion, it means that, see what I'm saying here. Simple diffusion, it means that only the exchange of gases will be the take place, and that very exchange of gases will take place with the help of their minute opening on their body surface, my dear. That is called what? Simple diffusion. And diffusion, the concentration, it means the amount of the energy that is flow from higher concentration to the lower concentration, my dear. Okay, without any selective permeable membrane. So over the entire body surface. So whatever the invertebrates like a sponge, colentrata, flatworms, they all exchange O2, but they all exchange O2 with the help of their by the simple diffusion on their entire body surface, my dear. Okay. So let's see one other example also might be here the name earthworm. Yes or no? So earthworm use their moist cuticle. Again, I'm repeating here. Earthworms use their what? Moist cuticle, and insects have a network of tubes. You might be seen a grasshopper. Whenever you see a grasshopper, you see there a network of tubes. That very network of tubes is known as what, my dear? Tracheal tubes. What I'm saying? Tracheal tubes. That very tracheal tubes is responsible for the mainly what? Transport of atmospheric air, isn't it? So whatever the atmospheric air, they passes inside within the body cells, So here there is a what? A special vascularized structure also. Here the special vascularized structure known as what? Gills, which is mainly present in where? Aquatic animals, or you say the aquatic arthropods. You know the meaning of arthropods? No. Arthro means jointed and poda means what? Feet. It means that the organisms which have what? Jointed feet is known as what? Arthropods, my dear. Okay. And there's somewhat molluscas where vascularized bag, and that very vascularized bag is called what, my dear? Lungs. So take one example of human beings. We all have vascularized bag, and that very vascularized bag is responsible for the exchange of gases, my dear. Okay, and that the name of that very vascularized bag is what? Lungs. So lungs, and if anybody can ask you where the location of lungs, then what you say? It is located in between the inside the what? Inside the what? Reefs, my dear. Okay, that's are used by the terrestrial form for the exchange of gases. Now the question is here, among vertebrates there are some aquatic animals also that use which one? Gills, whereas while reptiles such as birds and mammals, they respire through lungs also. Yes, is that clear? So now see, amphibians means what? Amphibians boat, beings means animals. So those organisms which live on both land as well as in water, they respire with the help of their moist skin also. So this one is a very important line of NCERT. So you have to go through these all things line by line, one to one, word to word. Then the whole concept is to be clear, otherwise not, my dear. Okay. So now see here, the mammals will develop having what? Respiratory system. So whenever we move ahead, then we study here the what? Different human respiratory system, my dear. Okay. So see what the human respiratory system is here. The first thing that is very important to understand. So before we have to become here NCERT point, then we have to be know here the what? Human respiratory system in a blank slide. Let's see here. I'm going to tell you about the human respiratory system. First here, see, in human respiratory system, my dear, what the thing is here. Let's see here. First I'm going to write here human respiratory system. Okay. So see, if I'm saying here the the system which is responsible for the mainly exchange of the gases from air to whatever the exchange by the gases is within the cells. Within the cells, it means within the cells also and outside the cells also, there's some exchange of the gases will take place. And you all know that this very exchange of gases is very, very essential for each and every living organisms. And why I'm saying this one thing? You know why? Because this exchange of gases is responsible for the oxidation of the food, my dear. Okay, so whatever we take the food, that very food is directly oxidized to their body cells, and then after it gives energy to each and every part of the cells, my dear. Now see, now the question is here, how the human respiratory systems occurs, my dear. Okay, so whenever I'm saying the human respiratory system in human, there are some organs which is responsible for the take one this respiratory system and take let's see here what the respiratory organs, my dear. Okay, the firstly the word the nose. What I'm saying, firstly there is what nose, or you say the nostril, or you say the word nostril, my dear, nostril. And then after second one is what, second one is what, trachea. What I'm saying here, trachea. And this trachea further divided into what, bronchi, bronchi. And then fourth one is what, um, bronchiole, bronchiole. And fifth one is what, alveoli, alveoli, right? Let's see here, the five are the basic main parts of the human respiratory system which is responsible for the exchange of gases. Let's see with the help of the diagram also, which is given in NCERT. Okay, let's see here in NCERT what the diagram is given here, my dear. Let's see first. Okay, so see, this one is the diagram of human respiratory system, diagrammatic view of respiratory system. Sectional view is here of the left lungs is also shown here. Okay, let's see. This one is the epiglottis. This one is the opening, okay, which cover the larynx. Here, this one is the what, larynx. This one is what, my dear, larynx. This one is epiglottis. And then afterwards, see here the trachea. And after the trachea, this trachea is divided into what, bronchi. Bronchus is singular, bronchi is plural. This one is the tubular like a structure, bronchus. If I'm saying this one is singular. And then after this bronchus further be divided into how many branches? There are several branches, my dear, known as bronchiole. And this bronchiole further be opening where muscular sac like a structure known as alveoli. Alveoli word is what, plural. Alveolus is what, singular, my dear. Okay, so now see here, one thing is also very important to understand here, that this lung is made up of what, double layered membrane. And this double layered membrane is known as what, pleural membrane. Again I'm repeating here, if anybody can ask you about the how many layer membrane of lungs in a human, then what you say, in a human it has double layered membrane. That very double layered membrane is known as what, my dear, pleural membrane. What I'm saying, pleural membrane. So this one is the pleural membrane, and inside this very pleural membrane there is a fluid. The name of the fluid is called what, pleural fluid. Getting my point? Pleural fluid. And this very pleural fluid which is present in between the pleural membrane. Now here one is what, diaphragm. And you know that the diaphragm is a muscular seat like a structure. Listen careful that what I'm saying here. Diaphragm is about muscular seat like a structure which is responsible for dividing the body into two regions. One is the what, above the diaphragm known as chest cavity, and below the diaphragm known as what, abdominal cavity. Getting my point? So if anybody can ask you about the term diaphragm, then what you say? So diaphragm is nothing. Diaphragm is just only a what, muscular seat like a structure which is responsible for divide the body into two regions. That the reason is what, if one is what, abdominal cavity, second one is what, chest cavity, my dear. Okay, now after knowing this thing, now the point here to be understand that what the human respiratory system and how this human respiratory system work. So let's see, start from here. So we all know that the pair of external nostril, yes, we all have external nostrils, that is opening out of the upper lips. Yes, it leads to a nasal chamber. You know the nasal chamber, the chamber that is through a nasal passage. Through a nasal passage, there is leads to where, nasal chamber. That very nasal chamber open into where? Open into where? The pharynx. What I'm saying? Pharynx. Again, I'm repeating. One thing that is very important to understand here, a pair of external nostril. Yes, number one. then after a what, a chamber which open into what, pharynx. This one is the second. And now the portion which is the common passes for the food and air. You see here the what, common passes. If I'm saying here the common passes, that is the food as well as the what, air, that a pharynx, and this very pharynx open through the what, larynx region, that is the voice box, that is the what, voice box, into where, the trachea. Again, I am repeating here, the nasal chamber open into the pharynx, and this pharynx a portion which is the common passes for the food and air. Okay, first point. Now the second point is here, the pharynx where opens through the larynx, and that larynx is also known as what, voice box, my dear, and that very voice box is the region into the where, trachea. Now this larynx is a what, cartilaginous box. What I'm saying, if anybody can ask you that what the larynx is, then what you say, the larynx is nothing, it is a cartilaginous box, and this very cartilaginous box which is responsible help in sound production, and hence called the what, sound box, my dear. What I'm saying, sound box. Getting my point? This one is the thing. Now, during swallowing, the glottis can be covered by thin elastic cartilaginous flap called epiglottis. So whenever you just what, engulfing the food, at that very time the thin elastic cartilaginous flap, that is called epiglottis, or you say the glottis, during swallowing, glottis can be covered by a thin elastic cartilaginous flap, and that very thin cartilaginous flap is called epiglottis. Getting? To prevent the entry of food into the larynx. So here the food doesn't enter into the larynx because this one is the epiglottis responsible to cover the what, hollow pipe. Okay. Next one, that is our trachea. Trachea, you know that trachea is nothing. Trachea is a straight tube extending up to the mid-thoracic cavity. If anybody can ask you what is the trachea, so trachea is a straight tube, and that very straight tube, where it arises from the mid-thoracic cavity, and this thoracic cavity then after first divide at the level of 5 thoracic vertebra. If anybody can ask you how many thoracic vertebra into the right lungs, right and left pulmonary bronchi. Why I'm saying the primary bronchi? Because the bronchus, which is what, firstly divided. So that's why it is known as what, primary. So see, whenever I'm saying here, the trachea, that is a straight tube extending from the mid-thoracic cavity, yes, and then after it divided it level of fifth thoracic vertebra, and that very fifth thoracic vertebra, where it goes to the right and left primary bronchi, my dear. Okay, so now each bronchi undergoes repeated division. You know, there are so many repeated division to form, and this very repeated division is known as secondary and tertiary bronchi and bronchioles, which is ending up in a thin terminal bronchiole. See here in this one diagram, here the primary, this one is the secondary and tertiary branches, and this finally this tertiary branches will into what, a small muscular bag like a structure or sac like a structure, my dear, known as what, alveoli. Yes or no? Let's see here. Here the NCERT also telling us her that what, a terminal bronchi, which terminal bronchi give rise to a number of very thin irregular wall. See what I'm saying, very thin irregular wall and vascularized bag like a structure, and that very vascularized bag like a structure called what, alveoli. Getting? It is just like a balloon, and that very balloon where all the airs, whatever in the atmosphere, goes within the body through the trachea, and then after the what, bronchi, and then after the bronchiole. Okay, so now see here the branching network of bronchi. Here see here the branching network of which one is bronchi, my dear. See this one thing, yeah, here the diagram. Okay, bronchiole, and this alveoli comprises the lungs. Okay, so we have two lungs, yes, which are covered by a double layered pleura membrane. See here, so if anybody can ask you that how many layered membrane in lungs, then what you say, here the two layered membrane, and the name of that very two layered membrane is known as what, pleura membrane. Okay, and inside the pleura membrane there is the word fluid. The name of the fluid is known as what, pleural fluid, my dear. Okay, so this was the pleural fluid, And what the main function of this pleural fluid? It reduces friction on the lung surface. You all know that. If anybody can ask you the function of the pleural fluid, then what you say? The main function of this pleural fluid to what? Reduce the friction. What I'm saying? Reduce the friction on the where? On the lung surface, my dear. Very good. Now the question is here, the outer pleural membrane. They are double-layered membrane, outer pleural membrane, which is in a close contact with the thorax. Now the question is here, when the close contact with the thorax, then what the things that is responsible for the exchanging of their gases? Here the lining where the inner pleural membrane is in contact with the lung surface, okay, and whatever the inner lining which is contact with the lung surface, they starting their external nostril up to the terminal bronchioles, and constitute the conducting part, whereas the alveoli and their ducts from the respiratory or exchange part of the respiratory system, my dear. So see, if I'm saying here that the internal structure part of the lungs, that internal structure part of the lungs is responsible for the what? For the conducting of alveoles, and this very conducting part of the alveoles forms the respiratory or exchange part of the respiratory system. Now here the conduct part of transport the atmospheric air to the alveoli clears it from foreign particles. And you know that how it clears the from foreign particles? Yes, it start from the nostril, because inside the nostril there is what fine hairs like structures, that hairs like structures filter the harmful particles which is present in air, okay, and then after some mucus inside the nose also, which gets humidifies and also bring the air to the body temperature, okay. So whatever the temperature within the body, they take that very air and make that very air as a body temperature. And after that, the exchange part is the site of the actual diffusion. Yeah, getting my point? So where the exchange part, and that very exchange part is the actual diffusion of which one thing? That is oxygen and what, my dear? Carbon dioxide. Now the question is here. Now the question is here, if I'm saying here about the oxygens and carbon dioxide, this O2 and CO2 between the blood and what atmospheric air. See, again I'm repeating here, if I'm saying that the exchange part, and that exchange part is the actual site of diffusion, and if I'm saying that the actual site of the diffusion is be there, then which one is responsible for this one thing? This one is responsible by the lungs, and in that meanwhile the oxygens and carbon dioxide between blood and atmospheric air will take place, my dear, continuously, okay. Now next, then after, the lungs are situated in the thoracic chamber. If anybody can ask you where the lungs situated, then you say what? The lungs are situated in the thoracic chamber. Getting my point? Again I'm repeating, if anybody can ask you where the lungs, then you say what? The lungs are situated in the thoracic chamber, and that very thoracic chamber, which is what? Anatomically an ear-tight chamber. What I'm saying? That is a what? Ear-tight chamber. And that very thoracic chamber is dorsally by the vertebral column. Dorsally by what one? Vertebral column. Ventrally by the sternum. The ventral means what? The outer region. The front region known as what? Sternum. And laterally by the ribs. See here, the thoracic chamber is formed dorsal by the vertebral column, okay, ventrally by the sternum, and laterally by the ribs. Again I'm repeating, the thoracic chamber is dorsally means what? Backside, and ventral means what? Front side, and laterally means what? Sideward. So this one three way. So see, the thoracic chamber is formed dorsally by the vertebral column, ventrally by the sternum, and laterally by the ribs, my dear, okay, on the lower sides of the dome shaped diaphragm. What I'm saying? Dome shaped diaphragm. The dome shaped diaphragm is also, the diaphragm is responsible for what? Dividing the body. So here the anatomically setup of the lungs in thorax in such a way that any change in the volume of the thoracic cavity will be reflected in the lungs pulmonary cavity, my dear, okay. So whatever the exchange of the gases will be the take place, that always the exchange of gases will be the take place with the help of their what? Pulmonary cavity, my dear. Such an arrangement is essential for breathing, and as we all know that we cannot directly alter the pulmonary volume, isn't it or not? Isn't it or not? So this one is the thing. Now here There are some uh, steps that is involved during respiration. Let's see what the steps involved during respiration, my dear. Number one, the breathing and pulmonary ventilation, by which atmospheric air is drawn in and CO2 rich alveolar air is released out. The first thing that is what occurs in human lungs, whatever the pulmonary ventilation by which the atmospheric air, it means the air which is present in atmosphere, is drawn in, and then afterwards CO2 is rich alveolar air is released out. This one is the first uh, process, first steps. And then after, the diffusion of gases, that is O2 and CO2, across alveolar membrane. Okay. And then afterward, third, transport of gases by the blood. Then afterward, the diffusion of O2 and CO2 between blood and tissues. Okay. And then afterward, utilization of O2 by the cells for catabolic reaction, and resultant, what the resultant is here, release of CO2, that is a cellular respiration. Okay. And this very cellular respiration we have to be dealt in chapter 14, my dear. Okay. Getting my point? Getting my point? Here are the 5 major steps which involved during respiration in human, my dear. In next video, my dear, in details, I will tell you about the mechanisms of breathing in human, my dear. So here in this very video, only I'm just going to tell you about how the respiration will take place and what the mechanism of respiration, my dear, we will discuss in next video, my dear. Okay, so thank you for watching me. Thank you. Have a nice day. Take care, and hope so everything is perfect. So thank you for watching me. We next video we start from where the mechanisms of breathing in what breathing and exchange of gases, my dear. Thank you for watching.